What if the global economy had a heartbeat? What if that heartbeat could warn you months before a recession hits? Most people wait for official data, GDP reports, unemployment numbers, inflation statistics, central bank announcements. But by the time those numbers change, the recession is often already underway. So today, we are going to talk about one of the most underrated economic indicators in the world, the Baltic Dry Index. Also known as the BDI, some investors call it the recession signal nobody watches, because the BDI tracks something incredibly simple: the cost of shipping raw materials. And when this index collapses, it often tells us one thing: global demand is weakening. So in this video, you'll learn what the Baltic Dry Index really is, why it matters for the global economy, how it predicts economic slowdowns, and how to interpret it the right way. Let's begin. What is the Baltic Dry Index? The Baltic Dry Index is a daily index published by the Baltic Exchange in London. It measures the cost of shipping bulk commodities across major global routes. These commodities include iron ore, coal, grain, cement, fertilizers, and other raw materials. In other words, the BDI tracks the cost of moving the building blocks of the world economy, not finished products like smartphones or cars, but the raw materials used to build almost everything. That's why it matters. Because when raw material shipping demand rises, it usually means production and construction are strong, and when it falls sharply, it often signals trouble. Why this index is special, you might ask? Why not just look at oil prices or stock markets? Because markets are influenced by many factors: speculation, fear, politics, central bank expectations, and even hype. But the BDI is different. It's harder to manipulate. Why? Because it's based on real shipping contracts. It measures actual business demand for shipping capacity. So the BDI is closer to the real economy than many other indicators. It reflects what companies are doing right now: buying raw materials, moving cargo, preparing for manufacturing, building infrastructure. And that's why it can work as an early signal. How the BDI works: to understand the BDI, you need to understand dry bulk shipping. Dry bulk ships are massive vessels designed to transport raw materials in huge quantities. The BDI is calculated using several categories of ships, including Capesize ships, the giants, used for iron ore and coal, Panamax ships, large vessels that fit the Panama Canal, Supramax ships, flexible mid-sized bulk carriers. The index basically reflects global demand for shipping capacity versus available supply. So if demand rises, rates rise, gives BDI rises. If demand falls, rates fall, gives BDI falls. But the key is what those demand changes represent. Why the BDI can predict recessions? The BDI can predict recessions because raw materials sit at the earliest point of the economic chain. Think of the economy like a pipeline. Raw materials gives factories, gives goods, gives retail, gives consumers. If companies stop ordering raw materials, it usually means factories will slow down, production will weaken, businesses expect weaker demand, layoffs may follow, and the economy cools. So when the BDI drops sharply, it can be a warning that businesses are pulling back. In other words, the world is buying less. And when the world buys less, a recession becomes more likely. A simple example: the economy's first domino. Imagine you're running a steel company. If you expect strong demand next quarter, you buy iron ore today. But if you fear demand will fall, you reduce orders. Now multiply this decision across steel producers, energy companies, construction firms, grain buyers, and global manufacturers. When businesses collectively reduce orders, shipping demand collapses, and the BDI captures that collapse early. That's why it can act like an economic early warning system. When the BDI gave warnings in history, the Baltic Dry Index has produced strong signals before major economic stress. For example, one before global slowdowns. When demand weakens, the BDI often declines before official GDP data shows recession. 2. During crises and major disruptions, the BDI can collapse dramatically, reflecting global trade stress. 3. Recovery signals. When the BDI rebounds strongly, it often suggests that industrial demand is returning. But here's an important warning. The BDI isn't perfect. You can't use it alone, because shipping rates are influenced by two forces, demand and supply, so we need to interpret it carefully. The big mistake people make: many people assume BDI down equals recession, but that's not always true. Because the BDI can fall for a different reason: increased shipping supply. If shipping companies build too many ships, the market gets oversupplied. Then rates fall, even if demand stays stable. So the key is to ask, is the BDI falling because demand is falling, or because there are too many ships? That's why context matters. The BDI is powerful, but only if you read it properly. How to interpret the BDI like a pro? Here's the best way to use the BDI. Step 1. Watch the trend. A small drop doesn't matter, but a sharp decline over weeks or months can be meaningful. Step 2. Compare with other signals. Pair the BDI with manufacturing data. Commodity prices, container freight rates, global PM is energy demand. If multiple signals weaken together, recession risk rises. Step 3. Look for sudden collapses. When the BDI collapses rapidly, it often signals demand shock. When that happens, global trade is usually slowing. What the BDI means for your life? You might be thinking, how does this affect me? If the BDI falls hard, it could signal weaker demand, slower business activity, lower corporate profits, and potentially job market pressure later. It can also affect markets' recession fears, impact stocks and bonds. Commodity prices. Weak demand pushes commodity prices lower. Inflation demand slowdowns can reduce inflation pressure, sometimes even causing disinflation. So yes, this shipping index can indirectly impact your job security, your investment returns, and even inflation trends. BDI vs container shipping. Important difference. Let's clarify an important point. BDI is bulk shipping, raw materials. Container shipping is finished goods, electronics, clothing, consumer products. So bulk shipping weakens first when industrial demand falls. Container shipping reacts later, closer to consumer demand. That's why the BDI is often associated with recession signals, because recessions usually start in industry and production before they reach consumers. The Baltic Dry Index is one of the most fascinating indicators in global macro. Not because it's famous, but because it quietly reveals what companies are doing before headlines catch up. When the BDI rises, industry is active, global demand is strong, and production is expanding. When it collapses, companies pull back, demand weakens, and recession risk rises. But remember, the BDI is not a magic crystal ball. It's a signal, a powerful one when used in context with other indicators. So if you want to understand the real economy, don't only watch markets or political speeches. Watch what's moving across oceans, because sometimes the ships know the truth before everyone else does. If you enjoyed this explanation, hit like, subscribe, and comment BDI if you want more recession indicators and global economic signals. In the next video, we'll explore how shipping disruptions and trade routes can trigger inflation waves. See you next time.